All right, we are back for a very special episode of Art of Darkness, the podcast about the dark side of creativity. I am Kevin Couchman, joined by my partner in crime, Brad Kelly. Brad, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Excited
Yes.
to talk. Excited to talk about everything.
I'm excited to talk about us. Let's talk about ourselves. And to help us in this narcissistic mission is our good friend of the show, Michael Bakkensen. Michael, how are you?
I'm good. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, and a little context to introduce Michael. He is an actor. He is a songwriter. And he will also, this is a personal plug since this is the Narcissism Festival episode, which I will explain.
We're the narcissistic ones. He's not
We get to be narcissistic. One thing we would not Michael. Michael's not at all. He's going to help us.
Talk to my wife.
He's midwifing our disorder today. But he's also going to be acting in a Zoom reading of my new play, Moderation, that's going to happen through a theater company in LA called The Blank Theater. That's going to come out early in December, and really excited to have him involved. You can learn more about that at moderationplay.com. Michael, welcome to Art of Darkness. The whole idea of this episode is that we are going to go over our first year, 2021, the foul year of our Lord 2021, and what we have wrought on this show. But before we do,
in a year bereft of content, with nothing available to watch or listen to,
we looked around the landscape and decided the world needed another podcast by a couple of guys.
Right.
A couple of middle-aged writers.
Yeah.
That's what the world needed. No, but Michael, before we get into it, how are you? You're in New York City. You just released an album. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
Yeah. I live in New York, so that's how I know you, Kevin. We bumped into each other initially at the Kismet Indian restaurant in Uptown. I have lived in the same apartment in Washington Heights for the last 15 years. So I'm still here. Got a daughter and a wife, and creatively speaking, I just released an album called Circle Kiss. It's my third album of original songs, 10 original songs that it turns out it's country. I didn't know that, but I went to a very good songwriter friend of mine. I said, what genre should I put this in? He goes, dude, you're country. And I was like, well, that's funny. I barely listen to country, but apparently I wrote a country album,
awesome.
Which, I love the Johnny Cash episode that you guys did. So we may hit on that. Yeah. And then I'm acting. I just shot a film called Zoo. Who knows when that'll be out? And I'm a professor of acting as well in theater. So I'm doing the teaching.
A Renaissance man, truly.
What's the short film about? Can you tell us?
Oh, it's a full length film.
Feature. What's the film about?
It's a feature.
Yeah.
Really, it's about I'm not the lead, although it would have been a good role. It's about an actor who is basically not doing anything with the acting and has gotten into real estate, and his wife has divorced him, and he's doing his best to show his daughter a good day. And they are trying to get to the zoo to see the snow leopard. I play the park ranger at the zoo who denies them entry because there's been a riot over, I think some environmentalists have protested the caging of animals.
Cool.
That sounds fun. You get to see. Yeah, that sounds fun. Cool. We'll look out for that.
And hit us with a link. What's the easiest way for people to find you online before we get into what we're really going to dig into?
I just keep it simple. It's my name, Michael Bakkensen, on Twitter. I follow. I'm more of, what do they call it when somebody just sort of follows people?
You're a lurker.
I'm more of a lurker. But I do post weekly almost on Instagram. Same thing, Michael Bakkensen. I think I'd put _back in town because I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah, well, the idea with this episode is we're going to lurk. You've been lurking on our catalog.
Very true.
You've been creeping. You want to slide into our DMs, literally sliding into an episode of the show. I mean, how meta for you? This must feel so strange.
It's weird. You had me do one of the After Dark ones on Oscar Wilde. I hadn't listened. I hadn't listened to any of it. And this time I thought, well, maybe I'll do my homework. And I find you guys really entertaining.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks,
man.
So I for long walks and whenever I'm heading somewhere, the AirPods go in and I listen to a new episode.
I'm glad you're sticking to your medication, Michael. No, that's awesome. We want this show. We're not making this show for ourselves. We really want it to be something that people get into. So that means a lot to us, and that goes for everybody. We want to hear from you on Twitter. It's always at Art of Dark Pod. We have the Patreon episodes. We're trying to grow that. You get every episode we do without fail. We do an extra bonus after dark. We'll do a bonus after dark for this one too. It'll be 20 minutes extra. We're trying to develop that too. If you like what we're doing, we're not how to say this. The next episode we're doing quite literally tonight. This is going to be a marathon Art of Darkness.
Amazing.
Is going to be Disney. Walt Disney.
Wow.
We don't have the backing of the Disney Corporation.
Yeah. So we've got I have a lawyer's phone number. I haven't talked to him yet, but in case, just in case.
Right. Yeah. I'm actually thinking about that.
I can give you some firsthand working for Disney stories because I did used to work for Disney.
Okay.
I used to work for the Miramax, and when the Weinsteins opened, and then Disney took over, and it all went to.
Okay. I wonder if this is what we talk about on the After Dark episode of this.
There we go.
We've teased it, and we're going to get some dirt on Miramax, the Weinstein stuff, and some Disney stuff out of our man Michael Bakkensen. The Disney episode is going to focus on Disney's life himself, and I'm going to be really pretty strict about not talking about the legacy of the monster that he created, because we only have, I assume, 3 hours.
Max.
So
and those tentacles run deep. So
I mean, I feel like I've gone on a lot. So why don't I guess, Brad, the idea, the structure for this episode is to reflect back on the first year of doing this show. How many episodes have we done? Like formal episodes of the biographies?
I could probably tell you pretty quick. So and maybe this is a good rundown for anybody who checks this out as like a first thing. Yeah,
it might be a nice little primer. Yeah, artofdarkpod.com. It's iTunes, all the usual places. Yeah.
Right. So
Michael, I know. Yeah, go ahead. So you count. Go ahead, Brad. You count.
We'll go back. We'll go from the first one. The first episode was on William S. Burroughs.
Yeah, Burroughs. Liberalism with the gun.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And that one might need a follow up at some point because we were just figuring out what we were doing. But I think it's good still.
I do like the idea that occasionally we might backtrack if there's new information about somebody. What do you think about that, Michael? You like that idea?
Oh yeah. I mean,
something comes to light,
Yeah. Yes, I think it's good, and I think one thing we're doing, and we're doing that this weekend for probably the first really carefully thought time is we're having. We did an episode on Pamela Coleman Smith, the great artist at the turn of the century. And a woman just released a new biography on Pamela Coleman Smith this year, a scholar from Washington State. She's coming on. We're going to talk to her, and she's going to tell us everything we were wrong about.
We got wrong. That's also the show title of this episode.
Yeah.
Everything we got wrong.
So William S. Burroughs, we did the Oscar Wilde episode.
Yeah.
We did an episode on the,
if I may, we don't have to. No, it's good. The count, I think, is about, what is it, about
15
to 20, something like that. Yeah, it's the Oscar Wilde episode. Is that the first one that I did?
Yep.
That was a lot of fun because I realized what I had signed up for. You ever just say, "Hey, this is a fun idea. Let's do this."
Yeah.
And then you're 5 days into researching Oscar Wilde, and you doing this show. And I suspect you as an actor, Michael, can relate to this. Doing this show, you cross a point where it sort of ceases to be research and it can begin to affect you.
Oh, yeah.
And I find that especially true when I'm researching the writers in this show.
Right.
Probably because of myself and my own background. But, of course, Oscar Wilde was such a force. And that last act of his life was so tragic.
Oh.
You invite it in to your living room, to your house, and you're in this for a week. It really starts to affect you. That's one amazing thing that I've discovered in working on Art of Darkness.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I got 16. There's been 16 formal episodes.
That's not bad.
With
we began
subject that
boom, and we began in February.
Right. Not too shabby.
Yeah, we got to make the interns work harder.
Yes.
They're getting credit for one of Michael's classes. That's how it's going to work. Michael, you got to send us the grad students.
That's the grift right there.
We got to keep the circle of abuse continuing. It's not free labor. You're getting credit.
I just recently hired one of my students and paid her a pretty penny to edit the music video for a song off of my album. Because she was good. She'd already edited a film that we had put up of a play that got canceled due to COVID, and she stitched it together brilliantly, and I knew she was going to be the one to put together the music video.
That was
we're joking, of course.
Yeah,
you got to pay the talent.
Michael, you're not getting paid for coming on.
No, that's fine. That's right.
Me neither.
Speaking of which, if you want to find my album, they make it stunningly difficult to buy an album now.
It's a little tricky. Yeah.
I would send out the link and people are like, I can't figure out how to buy this anymore, because iTunes, it has to go to the iTunes app on your computer or on your phone, and Amazon will all try to sell you a subscription service. CD Baby, which I used to publish, no longer hosts the album to buy. So just to buy MP3s you've got to go through some hoops.
Yeah. No, it's true. I've noticed that the last couple times, and especially if I feel like a lot of the music I've bought lately is on, more obscure people on like SoundCloud or Bandcamp or something like that. And it's actually
a good platform for that.
Yeah, and it's actually easier than buying like the latest of a more mainstream artist I have found. So it's interesting that way.
Yeah, fascinating. So what were we? So we were talking about Oscar Wilde. We're talking about the number of the episodes. Yeah, it's been interesting. What's the experience been like for you, Brett?
Oh man, it's been. I didn't realize I didn't realize how much time I would spend preparing for it, and you get a little obsessive. So it gets like, I will buy a couple biographies and be like, well, I can probably just leaf through these and throw something together. And then the next thing you know, it's like, oh, okay, I'm almost finished with this 700-page William Faulkner biography, that I have penciled and so it's fairly intensive that way, but it's awesome. I mean, I feel like I'm getting I almost want to say an art history, but that already has connotations of the visual medium. It's more like a cultural history, an intensive cultural history lesson as I'm going here. And it's been really cool.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like preparing to play a part in a play, but I also don't know that it's totally unlike that. I've never quite acted the way that you have, Michael, where you really research a role. Yeah, it's sort of interesting to think about. When you were researching, because I know you did the King's Speech, for example, did you do a lot of, you did that in DC, did you do a lot of reading for that?
Absolutely. And that's, I've had the good fortune to do a number of historical figures.
Yeah.
And that, it's such a gift to an actor, because, you can do a lot of kind of BS writing a character's journal about stuff, the things that you're taught in acting school about to flesh it out and get the imagination going. But if you have an actual biography or several biographies, or the writing that person actually put out in the world, you can begin it just excites your brain in ways that acting without, it's so much better.
That is absolutely my experience of doing this show. It's a different, you're not quite trying to put yourself in the person's shoes, and yet you are. Yeah. I want to avoid on Art of Darkness the tendency, even though we diagnosed ourselves at the beginning of this episode, I want to avoid that tendency of going, well, clearly this was a sociopath, or clearly this was all of this sort of Freudianism and all of this stuff. It's like, well, what do you really know? And we do our best, but just getting into the Oscar Wilde episode and De Profundis, the letter from the jail, just broke my heart. And luckily with Wilde, because he was such a genius, there's a richness where it sort of was leavened somewhat. Not so with Sarah Kane, who we did recently.
I listened to that.
Yeah.
Relentlessly bleak. What did you think of that? Have you ever done a Sarah Kane play, Michael? Would you ever want to?
Well, now, it would be a challenge. It would be great. I know who I'd want to direct it. This playwright, director Les Waters, that I've worked with before. I think he'd be great. He's a British director that has a play up on Broadway right now called Dana Age. Man, I mean, that is so... I wouldn't want to do a long run of it.
Yeah, could you imagine that night in, night out?
Maybe a couple of weeks, rehearse it for 4 weeks, put it up for a couple of weeks. But no. And you guys talked about that with acting. That was one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight, was kind of the acting process, because it came up with Brando and the difference between sort of film and theater, where you've got to be able to repeat it every night and not want to kill yourself or be, exhausted. And I think that's one of the main differences between film and theater.
Well, and it's the baby.
He
comes back from the matinee and he eats the baby again. He gets up in the morning and eats the baby.
I have to imagine theatrical acting, and I've done exactly zero acting, but I have to imagine that theatrical acting, as opposed to cinematic acting, there's got to be a higher level of stakes, right? Because you're not getting multiple takes. You're not getting to we're kind of figuring this one out. So we'll do a scene, and we'll do a take, and then we'll do another take, and then we'll do. Whereas it's almost like every night is the Super Bowl a little bit.
That's a perfect analogy. I don't know whether it's Super Bowl, but certainly professional sports, where there are stakes, and you're in front of an audience. And there's no
and if there is a little slip up, you can't let that spiral out of control. You got to cover for it and just keep I mean, I imagine that's intense.
It's hypnotic. I mean, I think you kind of go into a trance state.
Sure.
And that's the way you manage it. But you talked about these different. I think with Brando, you talked about Stella Adler, and then I don't know. People get kind of too into their role. That's dangerous. You want to be able to be into it on stage in the moment, but you want to be able to walk away from it.
Yeah. So you mean dangerous, like psychologically?
Correct.
No. Wow.
There was a wonderful woman, Kevin. I did a summer program at the Guthrie. I ended up working there professionally later, but there was a woman named Barbara Bryn. Yeah. Barbara Bryn was a company member there, and if you ever saw Amadeus, she played Amadeus's mother-in-law.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Amadeus.
Yeah.
I love Peter Shaffer. Equus.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Give me one play as good as either of those plays in my lifetime. Really.
Seriously.
Yeah, please. Theater gods, bless me.
But she had done that, and she spoke to us, young actors, and she said, never on stage feel that you actually are the character. Like, you have to keep it you have to convincingly portray it to the audience, but don't ever feel that you are that person. Like, it's almost like, somebody that's a medium or something. Like, don't go into the light.
Right.
But I think with film acting, people. Go ahead. I think when film acting, people do that, and you want to. For some people, you don't want to get out of character between takes. You want to kind of be in that state. And then you've got, like, however long the shoot is.
Right.
If it's a weekend, you're okay. If it's a 2-month thing, I mean, that's tough to recover from.
Right. And then sometimes you're shooting in the places where this is happening, right? So like, you're in the jungle or you're on there. So there's this sort of an added layer where in theater, you kind of walk off stage and that's no longer that environment anymore.
Sometimes Alec Baldwin is waving a gun at you.
Oh my God.
Oh.
This is, you said shooting, it triggered me too soon. I realized this is the Art of Darkness podcast, guys. I mean, I'm not going to pull too many punches here. Rest in peace, terrible, horrible tragedy.
So
not his fault. Except that he was a producer on it, and he should have been paying a little bit more for that armor.
Yeah. It wasn't his fault. It was his boss's fault, and unfortunately, he was his boss. So.
Exactly.
What a story. Yeah. I mean, I think Alec Baldwin's the bee's knees. I mean, you've got what's better than Glenn Ross?
Oh yeah.
I got to work with him once.
Really?
Oh really?
Yeah. We did a show at the Roundabout. You know that film, Mr. Roberts, that had, I think it was. Not Jane Fonda's father, Peter Fonda, was in the film version of it.
Okay,
but it's a World War II drama set on some kind of Navy ship near Japan, and at the end there's like a tragic kamikaze attack. But it's kind of like a slightly comedic, slightly dramatic play about World War II. Anyway, we did a reading of it, and he was there. He played the funny. The captain of the ship, and he was charming. He was super hilarious. He was supportive. He was exactly what you want as sort of like a Hollywood.
Yeah, a guy comes into the room. Yeah, like that. Yeah, that could be.
But he was great, and he loved theater. And he was, I believe, it was a weekend where he was going. He actually won an Emmy. But decided that he'd rather do this reading at the Roundabout than be in LA for the Emmys.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Wow. And obviously, I hope everyone's okay. That was a terrible thing. I mean, I can't imagine what he's going through.
Yeah. No, it's so messed up.
Yeah, unbelievable. Fascinating. This idea that maybe you don't go too far into the role, but you can do it too in film acting, right? You can become this crazy method guy who won't leave character even on set. Yeah.
Right. You don't drop the character until they release the DVD commentary.
I think you talk to students about this, that ideally, right.
Survive.
Right. Well, who was that said that? That was you said that.
Robert Downey Jr. from Tropic Thunder.
That is it's one of the last great funny movies. Oh my God, goodness.
But there's got to be a temptation as an actor. It makes me think. It's interesting you brought up like the psychic medium thing. It's like it makes me think like there could be a temptation. Like, well, if I just go all the way, then I'll finally get the performance that would lead to the success, and that will, you know what I mean? Like, and then getting sort of sucked into that. Yeah,
I almost went that far. Kind of. I mean, not, but I did Long Day's Journey Tonight in Louisville with this guy, Les Waters, and I went to O'Neill's house in New London, that summer home where it takes place. And then I was staying in this building that was built basically on the same year in Louisville. Like I said, it was like a 13 or 14 story skyscraper not skyscraper, but an apartment building. And it was near this old Victorian neighborhood that was purported to be very haunted. And I really began to feel like I was in a haunted house. Ooh. Down there by myself, playing, a dead character that was Eugene O'Neill's brother. I'd been to that house. The play is all about ghosts. Right. Not literally, but figuratively and deeply spiritually it was. And I would have things disappear. I would have the hair on the back of my neck stand up all the time. I was really spooked by the time I left.
Wow. The theater is really adjacent. I went on Force of Symbols podcast. If you go to our website, artofdarkpod.com, we put when we're invited on for whatever reason, whatever crazy reason people want to have us on. Brad was on this one. Anyway, I was talking about this, about how theater is almost sort of indistinguishable from like ceremonial magic. At a certain point, you have these strange things start to happen, very famously, and not in a kind of a, what's the word, goofy way. Like, it's real, and if you're in it, it's real, and it's sort of hard to deny. you don't want to overplay that hand in terms of the theater because it's a profession, it's work.
Right.
People are behind it. How many people does Broadway employ? I mean, it's a real job. It's a real thing. But there is this kind of weird, ooky, spooky energy that comes. I mean, you are playing the words of dead people. Right. That's one thing. That alone is sort of like Egyptian, sort of just ancient and strange. And yeah. I think that's fascinating. How did that run go down there in Louisville?
It was magical. It was great. And it ended with Hurricane Sandy, Superstorm Sandy came through and canceled all flights back to New York. So I was stuck there for another 4 or 5 days.
Do you do anything to like wash a production off yourself when you're done? Like after every episode of Art of Darkness, I go take a shower. I pour bleach over my head. I definitely take a shower after every performance.
That's good.
I got that theater stink on me.
I should drink bleach, probably.
Yeah, really.
Get rid of COVID that way. But it's funny you should mention. I mean, I always say that to my students that is the origins of theater. But you brought up the King's Speech. That was performed. They were developing it, hopefully, to bring it to Broadway. Not to say that I would have brought it to Broadway, but that was the intention. And the playhouse that we were in D.C. was a roadhouse that had been around since the 1830s or 1840s. Like, Lincoln certainly saw plays there. And it was built over a former creek. And apparently there used to be a resident company there in the mid-19th century that would go down and get water out of, like, the subterranean thing below the foundation. So I would go down, like at that point I had my daughter 5 years before, and I'd kind of stopped doing theater out of town. Like I hadn't done anything except for film, TV, and some voiceover stuff. So this was the first time I'd been back in a while. I was freaked out to be performing suddenly for a Broadway-sized house. So I would go down under the stage where these people from that company used to apparently draw their water. Wow. And I would try to commune with the spirits. I'd be like, guys, you got to help me out here. Yeah. I have not been on the stage in 5 years.
Yeah. All right.
That's awesome.
Give me what you can.
That's awesome. And I get that. Even not as an actor, I can understand and I can pitch that perfectly. Yeah. Well, fascinating.
I have the episodes open right now at the website, and I think we should just sort of rattle them off. Okay. I should say, do it. We updated the website. We have a new logo. We have a new font. Thank you to our resident intern there, Jolie, who Brad happens to be married to. And also thank you, Peniel Collada, for the wonderful show art. Every episode, there's a psychedelic portrait of the
best show art in the game.
No, I don't. She's incredible. No question. And they're diverse and they're interesting, and you never quite know what she's going to come back with. I'm looking at Annika Vaughn and her bazooka. And that's the drugs.
Yeah, right.
Oh, so many drugs for all of our artists, all of our troubled artists. Yes. There's never enough. The bottom is never there. How far can we go? Annika Vaughn. Was she the first? Well, of course, Burroughs. We started with my God.
Yeah.
We really
she wasn't the first. Yeah. No, I had two. That was my second episode. So 2 heroin addicts in a row, I guess.
You were really going there. So in the first 3 episodes of Art of Darkness, we had somebody who murdered his wife, manslaughtered his wife.
Manslaughtered his wife.
Not going to go there. Baldwin his wife.
Oh, come on, man.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. My God, it had to be done. Anyway, I hope everybody's okay. Rest in peace, my God. It's terrible. But we have Burroughs. We have the heroin addiction.
Yeah.
Just like awful. Troubled, like pederasty. I mean, I think you made a brilliant choice picking him right away.
Yeah, that was a good move. I mean, he literally thought he was possessed by a dark spirit. I mean, that was like what it was like. Who's the darkest of all these people? And that was kind of him. So start there, and then we'll figure out everybody else. That was my thought.
Awful. And then we go to Oscar Wilde, who also had vague kind of little bit of pederasty, maybe little. We got Rent Boys. We got you're cheating on your wife, and then we end up in jail and then ignominiously dead. I don't think that we've ever, of all the episodes we've done, have we found anybody whose fall was more sad.
Yeah, that was the worst of it. Yeah,
you can't imagine. I can't even imagine having the number one play in London, host of the town,
at a time where there weren't really. Yeah, that's like having the number one movie in America right now, right? I mean, in terms of the attention and yeah.
It'd be like if Prince, when Purple Rain was in the cinema, had been thrown in jail for being too funky.
Right.
Not going to work.
Yeah.
So it's just terrible.
Yeah.
And then we get to Annika Vaughn. And Michael, I don't know. I know you haven't listened to every single episode, so
I'm top heavy. I'm more towards the ones that you did more currently.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Annika Vaughn was she's a writer that I kind of fell in love with last year. And I didn't know anything about her when we started doing the episode. I'd read a book and a half by her, and I was like, yeah, we got to talk about her. And then started digging in, was like, oh, she was a heroin addict and like spent time in an insane. I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is perfect Art of Darkness fodder. So yeah, she's worth checking out for, if anybody's looking for a little bit of a psychological, I don't even know what to call those books, sort of like, Kafka, but darker a little bit. So.
Well, and that brings us to the great one himself. And we've had all sorts of like weird sexual dysfunction just in those 3 episodes, right?
Yeah.
But nothing quite like Gurdjieff. And I don't know if you've had the chance to listen to the Gurdjieff episode, but
that was next on my list. I'm listening to Kafka right now, and Gurdjieff was going to be next.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you know about Gurdjieff?
I know the Enneagrams. I know. There's some theater company here that somehow is related, that I did a 24-hour like acting marathon. Some of their stuff came from Gurdjieff.
Peter Brook is a big Gurdjieffan. He produced the movie. And Gurdjieff had, that we know of, at least 7 different children by 7 different women.
Wow.
As you do. As one does.
Yeah,
and I would say there's a certain quality of darkness to that.
Yeah.
Maybe you got to pump the brakes a little bit.
Well, he's one of those people that, you come out of it and you're like, wait, was he a cult leader or was he like legit somehow? Like, it's not 100% clear. You look back at most of these people and say, yeah, it's obviously a cult leader, like just manipulating people. And even now you're like, I'm not sure. Dude. He's brilliant for sure.
And we're going to have Michael on in the future for an episode of one of the biographies. Like tonight, we're doing Disney with Blauergeist. So at some point, Michael, when we got to find, maybe it might be a dead actor. It might be, I don't know. We'll figure that out in the back.
Yeah, I'd love to do more actors. I mean, that's not an area of expertise of mine, but that'd be cool.
And now looking back over the episodes, I think these 2, if I may say so, based on the feedback we've received, these 2 are really where we started like hitting a stride.
Is that Gurdjieff?
You did. Well, Gurdjieff I think was pretty good, because Gurdjieff was, personally, I'm very interested. I think he's very woo-woo and kind of wacky and strange and fun, and people are interested in him. He's still, if you're into Gurdjieff, there's you're kind of you want to be an interesting person.
Right.
And that's 9/10 of it, right?
Yeah.
I want to be interesting. What's going on? I need a little help, You're thinking a little outside the normie box, if you're going for
sure.
Gurdjieff. Yeah.
That's for sure.
And but you took us into left field, I would say, with Junior Kimbrough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Who's a musician.
Right.
And this is the one, when we released this is when I started hearing from people.
Yeah. And it's one when I tweet, when I just I just overtly tweet people like, you should listen to this episode of this thing. Like when I find people on Twitter who have no idea who we are. This is the one that usually gets the most traction from those kinds of efforts. You find somebody talking about the blues on Twitter or talking about Junior Kimbrough or Hill Country Blues, and send this, and it's big thumbs up generally.
Yeah, very cool. And
we had done kind of literary sort of. Yeah, I mean, Gurdjieff wasn't literary, but we'd done sort of, white guys Basically.
Yeah, pretty well. I don't know about Gurdjieff, but
that's
sure.
True. Yeah. So that was a big.
William Burroughs was some sort of an alien.
He was. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So, Oscar Wilde was Irish.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Lord.
Right.
So I don't even really know if we had done a white guy.
We might not have actually done a white guy.
I think Burroughs qualifies. Yeah, he's sort of horrible.
Yeah.
Just horrible. I mean, what an amazing thing, too, that Burroughs hasn't been, quote unquote, canceled. I mean, you just think, like, it's so strange, the buckets that people find themselves in, you know?
Yeah. I think it's because the material it's almost in. I don't want to say this because I'm a huge Burroughs fan of the writing, but the work is almost incoherent. Like you're not gonna, you know what I mean? Like you're not gonna settle on this thing where it's like, oh, he wrote abusively about something for a long period of time, because he might have on a page, but like who's gonna find it amidst all of this just chaos? Yeah. So I think that's part of it. Is he's too hard to like locate.
Well, and I think you hit a home run with Junior Kimbrough. I really enjoyed that. Part of this is another thing, Michael, that's kind of fun about doing this podcast is like I enjoy when it's like Brad's turn.
Yeah.
I stress out a little more when it's mine. Like Disney, I've got a book downstairs. I've got to quit. Like after we're done here, I got to go and start pouring over it. And I want to feel like I know what I'm talking about. Plus, also like I kind of regret taking Disney on right now. I just don't. I hate it. I hate it so much. I really do. It's just so awful. But at the same, but it's not entirely awful.
Yeah.
Like I actually really don't like the suicides. I don't like doing the suicide episodes because I find I spent a lot of time writing a play about Hemingway. We would almost sort of venture to say I lost a year or two doing that. I don't like too much having to get into the psychology of those folks. To be frank, it's really demanding. But my answer to Junior Kimbrough was Kubrick.
Yeah,
and I had a lot of fun doing that one.
Yeah, I just finished listening to that. It was it was terrific.
Oh, that was so much fun. Because that's one I can do. I'm passionate about Disney, but it's like I hate watch.
Right.
A lot of it is because they had that golden age of Disney in the 50s and the 60s, and even the early stuff like Fantasia is. Yeah. It's clearly some sort of MK Ultra mind control, but it's also like incredible. Yeah. And the conceit of Fantasia, where you're gonna, for a mass audience, you're gonna do a classical concert, and you're gonna talk about Grieg and all, and Stravinsky and all of this. My gosh, how far away from that are we now? And you know, all this classic art. It's actually heartbreaking in a funny way to watch this classic Disney. Like 101 Dalmatians is like borderline fine art. Yeah, I could just stare at the backgrounds all day, but it's a lost art. So it's like, just the feelings are so intense about Disney. Anyway, but I love Stanley Kubrick. So you just listened to the episode. So I don't know, Michael. You enjoyed it, I guess. That was fun to prepare.
Yeah, no, I had stuff that I wanted to talk about in relation to that. I got to read a biography of Anthony Burgess, so that was interesting to hear their intersection and the quotes that you had from him about that, and how he'd come up with Clockwork Orange. Yeah, the biography I have, it's called Little Wilson and Big God, and it's, in any event, it ends before, it's sort of memoirs. It ends before he had written Clockwork Orange. So I hadn't known that about his wife and the horrible thing that it happened.
Yeah, that was dark. Well, and there's something too that was so that going on with Anthony, with Burgess's wife, and then and then the Clockwork Orange film gets made, and Kubrick is not trying to glorify the violence. He's trying to do something, and then people just dressing up, and going out and assaulting people, right? And it's just right.
There was in the East Village in the early 2000s a place called the Korova Milk Bar.
Oh, really?
I used to frequent with a friend of mine, and it was always a bad night.
Really?
We'd go in there, like, we're going to have fun. And then we would have the white chocolate martinis, and the next thing you knew, it was, raging angry drunks walking around the East Village.
Yeah. I could see that. I could see that attracting that kind of thing, right?
It was, it was us. Like we had become that.
Right.
This
it brings that out of you
to let rip. Yeah. Well, A Clockwork Orange is such a great example of how Kubrick's project is really about kind of almost like ritual abuse, and how society has a tendency to ritually abuse people.
That's how his oeuvre ends.
Of course,
right?
He warned us. Yeah, Epstein didn't kill himself.
Right.
And I love that you brought that up and sort of connected it, because I remember seeing it that summer. It was summer of '98 or '99.
'99,
might have been '99.
Yeah. That was the summer I was at the Guthrie. I saw it with a bunch of actors there. And
we might have even been in the same, because that's when I saw it. I saw it in Minneapolis here in
that little indie theater. I've seen Blair Witch Project like the week before, and then
that might have been. We might have been in the same
audience.
Oh, what the heck?
That's awesome.
Oh man! And then I was at Little St. James the following week. With good old Jeffrey. I'm joking, of course.
Yeah,
but Kubrick was
St. James.
Right.
Yeah, no, I knew somebody.
Jesus Christ!
I knew somebody that his family were people that loved to sail and stuff, and they were also from a Providence family of. He describes them as like English immigrant gangsters in Providence.
Oh, okay.
So there's kind of like Cockney, like 5th generation Cockney gangsters living in Providence, and
that's awesome.
Super wasps.
Yeah, but not the wasps that you think of. But they were sailing around the Caribbean, and they were like, that's where a crazy guy has like a sex slave island, and
they knew.
He told me this in 2014. Yeah. And I was like, I wrote him when all the stuff about Epstein came out. I was like, is that what you were talking about? And he said, oh, yeah. Whoa. Yeah, that's exactly who it was.
That reminds me of...
they said they were going to raid it like pirates and liberate the girls.
Wow. Oh, my God. Well, that would be a funny name for a theater company. Would be like the Little St. James Community Theater or something. Right? The Little St. James Players. Oh, this is Art of Darkness. I don't know why I feel like I'm going too far, guys. I mean, this is the whole point of the show.
Not. We're appropriately going.
We're making radio. We're playing the hits. Come on. But that's fascinating. That reminds me of when I was over in England doing theater in 2006, 2007, and Kevin Spacey was roosted in the old Vic, and all it was just rumors and rumors and rumors, and everyone knew, and you would even get warned, like if you
stay away from him.
Yeah, you and it's like so it's just this whisper network stuff.
Yeah, no, I did a show with somebody that was probably kind of a boy toy of his, and the man had a long-term girlfriend, but he had kind of made his career.
Wow.
And there were. One night, somebody was in the audience who was just like laughing like crazy at every line that guy said. And I was like, I wonder who that is. And friends of mine were like, this German guy was like, this really annoying man in the audience. And I, afterwards, when people were filing out, I thought funnily enough, I thought Israel Horovitz had come to see the play because he was wearing the same kind of outfit as him. And then it suddenly came to me. I was like, that's Kevin Spacey.
Oh.
That was him.
His little paramour had been on stage, and
Oof.
Is that guy ever going to come back, Kevin Spacey?
Too much. Let me consult the Council of Kevins after the show. I'll get on Telegram here, all the Kevins. It's not good. The name Kevin in German and in Germany and the German-speaking countries is like the equivalent of the name Karen now. Here.
Oh, is that right?
Isn't that hilarious. Fun? I love that. Hilarious. That's really nice.
You are such a Kevin.
You are such a Kevin. I am. Anyway. All right. So, I own it. Okay. So up next we had Kafka is who you did next.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
I'm very fond of the episode title for Kafka. Franz Kafka Goes to Hot Topic. I don't know why that amuses me. And of course, I like to say that, and maybe I should explain what I mean here. And we made a shirt. I think I'm even wearing it. It says Kafka was a hack. And of course, I don't mean this to denigrate Kafka's writing ability. It's a bit of a joke. I mean, it's a joke, of course, only because I just don't know if Kafka would last 15 minutes at the Mall of America in 2021. How face-meltingly horrific. It's like Orwell. It's like, nice try, bro.
Yeah, right.
You did a good job for the time.
Yeah, right.
And of course, I respect and admire all these writers. And directionally, you were correct.
Right.
But it's like we're living in some sort of hyperspace version of Kafka.
Yeah. It's in some ways much stranger than Kafka stuff. You know, nobody's turning into cockroaches, but there's a almost a comic book quality to like the news that is far weirder than most of the stuff Kafka was writing. Yeah. And we're not here to attack Kafka. That's not the joke, of course, is that, I like to think he might appreciate that. Yeah.
I read The Trial when I was in the most mind-numbing job, just, survival job. Doing filing for a medical company.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of what he was doing when he wrote it, more or less.
Oh God.
Yeah. Yeah. he nailed it. He nailed that, the corporatization, and you see that in The Trial, and you really see that too. This isn't what anybody remembers, but you really see that in the Metamorphosis as well, because the almost the worst part of that story, like the part that hurts me the most, isn't so much the family stuff, though that's well done and everything. It's that his boss shows up to be like, why aren't you at work? Like, like you're sick in bed and your boss is like knocking on the door, like, you're late. What's going on? Get out of it. Get up. You got to go to work. Like, just no escape. And if you wrote that now, he'd be calling you on the phone.
Yeah,
emailing you every 5 minutes, messaging you on Slack.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Where can I find you?
Yeah.
Right. Why, you haven't wiggled your mouse in 10 minutes.
Yeah. 10 seconds.
I mean, and it's sort of like Kafka's so great, but it's like if these writers, and this is a personal thing that I think about a lot, if these writers were so great, why didn't it get better? Like, why why are we in this? Why is Mark Zuckerberg trying to suck our children into digital?
Well, nobody.
I understand it's art against the forces that are so much bigger than any one person can control. Right. And I'm sure the world is. I guarantee the world is a better place for having Kafka.
Yeah. Well, I think the hope isn't so much that the art can actually change the world. It might be that a great piece of art can just pry a little space in things that you can fit in and psychically survive. Yeah. More so than changing everything. It's like you can read Kafka and it didn't change anything, but you can go oh, that's why I feel like that sometimes. I get it now.
It's like the Samizdat that used to go around in Russia and the Czech Republic behind the Iron Curtain. They would just in offices, they would mimeograph stories, plays, polemics, and just pass them around under cover of darkness.
That's gonna start happening now.
A little bit.
A little bit.
I think it is. I think I've even seen a bit of it.
Yeah,
it's funny. Well, so moving forward to the next two episodes. I mean, we kind of blew past it, but that Kubrick episode we didn't blow past it. We hung around.
I wanted to talk about a couple of things in there.
Yeah, talk about it. That was our turning point.
Dig into it. I feel like it was a turning point. Yeah, I'm gonna take a quick break. But you guys go on about, and I'll jump right back in. Okay.
Cool. Sure. Yeah. Well. Oh no, Kevin's gone. I can't talk.
Go for it.
Well, I love that that he got Arthur C. Clarke to write it, and then he ended up in the Chelsea Hotel.
Right. With and I don't remember who some of the other characters were, but they were was it?
I think there should be an Art of Darkness about the Chelsea Hotel.
Yeah, I know. That would be. It's a fascinating place, and I
around that
still
time,
don't know much about it.
I'm guessing that's right around when Oh my God, we got a siren going by here. Welcome to New York.
Right. That's exactly what people think New York sounds like.
I live on Broadway, so it's unavoidable.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think like Patti Smith was living there. Like,
okay.
I think Jimi Hendrix was around there at that time. Leonard Cohen was living there.
Wow.
Joni Mitchell was living. Like,
you're talking about the Village,
the Chelsea Hotel.
The Chelsea Hotel itself. And actually, right now, I get my hair cut from a guy that lives on the top floor there in a studio. He is such a wonderfully eccentric person.
You talk about ghosts. I mean, not that I don't know who of
Dylan Thomas,
right? So wait, was it Dylan? Somebody died there, right? At the Chelsea Hotel.
Yeah, Dylan Thomas went into a coma basically after doing 17 shots of whiskey at the White Horse Tavern not far away.
I think that's too many.
I know that place. Yeah, I know the White Horse.
Yeah. So he did that. He said, he said, this must be a record. Walked out of there, went back to the Chelsea, and just didn't wake up.
Oh, wow. So you imagine the energy in that place over all of that, and the stories and the myths and the rumors and the wow.
And it's been under renovation for the last 8 or 9 years. So when you go there, it's always scaffolding here and there's weird.
I'll never understand why drinkers have to write so much. I don't understand it. That's interesting. How did we get to Chelsea Hotel from Kubrick?
Because that's where Arthur C. Clarke,
right? Of course,
had, I guess, decamped from
he ensconced himself there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Of course, he liked it. You said he had to go to bed at 9 o'clock every night, which now with a young kid, I get it. It's funny that he was in that kind of bohemian hotbed of bohemianism, but then he didn't think anybody would
you can imagine him you imagine him with the broomstick at the ceilings. Jimi Hendrix is upstairs, Yeah,
the party doesn't even start until 11 in New York City.
Right.
Everybody's just pre-gaming until until 10. Yeah. So we have two more episodes after Kubrick and Kafka. The next one was the Great Suicide, which really tested me and my mettle and also I think my ability to kind of be, I don't know, to empathize in a certain way, because I don't come from even remotely a background like Virginia Woolf's. That was quite intense, and finding the 7 or 8 minutes of recorded audio of her voice and the way she talks, which is so high, and he's here to see the Queen. I can't even do it. It's just high RP, hardcore. It goes. That's not how I heard her writing in my redneck brain.
No,
and that was interesting.
No, her voice was startling. It felt cartoonish. It felt like you were watching some kind of cartoon from the 50s or 60s where they had an English character, but it was, that's what it felt like to me.
How do you think we sound to them?
With my head so much, right?
Right. Gee whiz, Brad. I sure do like the theater. The theater. Yeah, really though. But it was fascinating and getting to know her work a little more and that it was a real joy. One thing too that I took from her and especially from Kubrick is this idea, and it's sort of driving me now in a lot of ways, is that it's just this DIY thing.
Yeah.
Kubrick raised money from, what was it, a dentist? It was like a dentist or an optometrist in the neighborhood. Jewish kid from Brooklyn taps the network, nearly kills his actors out in California with like a mistake with some gas. Right? Film sets are dangerous. Apparently, yeah. I mean, you got to be on your toes, legitimately.
So were theaters, true.
Yeah, theaters are a little. Yeah, right. I mean, don't whistle in the theater. It goes back to the sailors. And
I had in a tech rehearsal, a fellow actor of mine was dropped on his head. We were both being suspended by ropes. And then when we went backstage, I saw that they had no idea what they were doing. These random knots that they had put to try and get it to be the right length. And of course, one of them had come out. He was just lucky not to be paralyzed.
Why were you being suspended at the Little St. James Theater?
It was Titus Andronicus, and we were playing the two brothers. And Titus comes in and would cut our throat. It was a wonderful effect once it was perfected, but when we were
You're ready to do Sarah Kane.
Yeah.
You're classically trained to do modern English theater. Fun. Okay. Well, it's dangerous. You have to be careful for sure. Kubrick, it's this DIY thing. And now it's like, you got to do it. What does Werner Herzog say? The first thing you should learn if you want to become a filmmaker is how to forge a document.
Right.
I love that.
I have to admit that I think I know what he's talking about. Produce something this.
We're not going to put that.
Wait till the statute of limitations.
Right. I won't release this until 2027. I hear lawyers. And so Virginia Woolf is similar too, and they had money and all the rest of it, and of course money makes things easier. But one thing that I've realized doing this, and Brad and I talked about this, it's that there's like a through line or a thread. A lot of these people have the ability to get what they want. They don't have the money, they put the money together. We're coming up on Disney. I was just listening to something about how they were mortgaged to the hilt, down to one car for the family, couldn't get Disneyland made, couldn't get it financed.
Wow.
They finally agreed to do 2 shows for ABC for $500,000 to get the financing done for Disneyland. You have this idea that they're just this monolithic power and it's always been that way. Finance does not work that way.
No.
It does not work that way. And so just these people have this indomitable will to get it done. Kubrick, I'm a D student, but I'm going to get somebody's going to give me a great job, and somebody's going to, I want to make a movie. So you have to have that fire. Not always, but a lot of these figures that we're covering have that fire.
Yeah. The next one we did, Rod Serling, was definitely a case of that. I mean, he was just he basically worked himself to death, essentially. He just nonstop, round the clock.
For people who don't know, who is Rod Serling, Brett?
Yeah, he was the creator and wrote bulk of the series of the Twilight Zone.
Bulk of the series, dude,
and a number of other works for television. Was at one time the most recognizable writer in America. So he did that same. I mean, he was a kid from upstate New York, and just through sheer force of will, just made things happen.
Wasn't he a little tiny guy too?
Yeah, he was like 5'5".
I love this idea of these like Napoleon guys coming on and just they don't have a lot going for them on that front, right? They're not Giga Chad.
Right.
Yeah. They're going to smoke enough cigarettes and they're going to sort of flim-flam their way into this. Yeah.
Right. And then back it up. And then, I've taken that from these episodes too, very much. So just like, you just do it and you don't stop doing it. Yeah.
And it's so often that they were bad students. Like they're just utterly bored by the educational system and its strictures. And
and they're completely right to be. It's horrific. It's mortifying.
It's true. Well, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna have a career like Stanley, what would it have benefited him to be a good student?
Trying to imagine Stanley Kubrick in graduate school for screenwriting, trying to feed back to it. You can't even imagine.
Right.
And of course, I'm saying this as somebody who,
Right. I mean, do you guys feel that? In some ways, I feel like, why didn't I just, at 17, move to Hollywood and just, sink or swim?
Right.
Yeah. Like, I think one thing about this, a lot of this is that we're living in very different times from these folks.
Yeah.
This is the old problem, and this comes up on the episodes a lot too, Brad and Michael. It's a case of like, and then I wrote a feature story for the New York Post, from which I took the proceeds, moved to the south of France, and bought my villa and lived off it for 3 years. Then my grandfather died. It's like you could write a story.
Yeah.
Get a feature story done. You do 2 a year.
Right.
And then pursue whatever else you want. Money's a little different. The dollar is not quite what it used to be.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that. You mentioned in the Brando episode that he was at like a lunch counter and he ran into Norman Mailer and James Baldwin.
Yeah.
I had just read a collection of essays by Baldwin. And he talks about in notes on the Amen Corner that when he first moved to France, he he went there similarly. He'd had something published. He'd had some prize, and it was enough for him to move to France. But he very quickly ended up in the hospital, and then after that ended up in jail.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's not good.
And he borrowed money from Marlon Brando.
Oh, really?
And this was like, I don't know, sometime in the early 50s, late 40s. So
Very
Brando must
cool.
have just had his first break, and he was still in touch with James Baldwin, and he like bailed him out. And he talked about it as like because he was talking, he had a lot of issues with white America, but he was like, there are brilliant, wonderful exceptions out there, and and he was one of them.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, Marlon walked the walk. If you heard that episode, I think did I play any of the business about the Native American cause?
Yes.
Because he was so intense about that
Yeah.
way before that was fashionable or de rigueur.
Right.
I mean, to go to Hollywood and to send a Native American woman in your stead to receive an Oscar for The Godfather, one of the greatest performances of all time. And then to lecture Hollywood about their representation of Native Americans in the 70s.
Right.
Now, if you don't do it, you're
That's
hosed. But this legitimately was a power move. And, Brando was incomprehensibly large. Doing that episode, it's going to be like Disney, where at a certain point we just go, well. Yeah. You sort of throw your hands up and go, okay, here's 3 hours of us talking about this. Go read a book, I guess, watch the movies. We're not there yet, but we'll come to it. I want to go chronologically here. We're getting very close to it. So the next one that we have is let's see here.
Tennessee Williams.
No, we got Pamela Coleman Smith.
Oh,
We can't miss her, which
That's
of course
true.
the whole point is that she's overlooked. We can't overlook Pamela Coleman Smith.
That's right.
Really, it's ridiculous. You have this Rider-Waite tarot deck. She's the one who drew the thing, and her name isn't even on it. I mean, talk about a crime.
Yeah. Literally, her name's not on it, and she's with the amount that deck sells. Her art is probably among like the best-selling prints there are
of all time.
Really, I mean, when
it probably is. Her art is probably the greatest selling art of all time.
It's in the conversation for sure. Because there's a lot of people have that deck for sure. I
wonder how many copies of that have been sold.
It's got to be millions.
Hundreds of millions.
Yeah. Maybe.
I'm gonna look while you talk about it.
Yeah. So that was a cool episode for me to do, because I have, an interest in a relationship to the tarot, and I didn't really know anything about her. I just knew I knew she was a synesthete and she'd done this deck, and that was kind of it. So that was really cool to investigate. And then we just, in doing it, sort of discovered this amazing, inspiring talent who is also a DIYer, who is just like, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do it exactly how I want to do it. I'm going to figure out how to make money. I don't really care what the traditions of how to do this are. I don't really care who doesn't like it. She was going to do her thing, and she did. She did until it, past when anybody even cared anymore. She did it,
die kind of penniless as a
Catholic
in remote England,
she bought a property that had a little chapel on it, and called Our Lady of the Lizard, and the very south in England as you can possibly be. And it was like a resort kind of. It feels weird saying a resort, but like when Catholic priests were on vacation, they would go there and hang out and get some rest. And she kind of died slowly, was just running out of money. And
there's another quality of our show, which I think is pretty obvious as you go through it, that we're not complete devotees of sort of aggressive identity politics, but it's a factor in a lot of these lives. And if you take race and gender into account, it's really, really important. And a lot of people don't get the shot. Because a lot of people don't get the credit that they're due, and a lot of that has to do with these institutional bigotries and of all shapes and sizes.
Yeah, and she was. Everybody thought of her as an oddity, and I think she maximized that, but it also was a hindrance at the same time. So that was kind of an interesting case.
I really enjoyed that episode because I know how passionate you are about the tarot, Brad. So it was like,
it got me super excited. And that's why I'm really excited tomorrow to talk to Elizabeth O'Connor, who wrote who wrote the book on her. So that's
going to be fantastic. It's funny. This Forest of Symbols podcast that I went on and did an interview on, one of the questions he asked me, it pertains to Art of Darkness because, and Michael, I wonder if this has been clear to you in the number of episodes you've listened to. We will not do someone who has just died.
It has to be a year and a day.
A year and a day, yes, correct. And that is both for a strict spiritual reason, which will not be disclosed on the episode. There may be hints of it. If you go back and listen to the Gurdjieff episode, you may come to have a slight understanding of why we don't do it. But he asked me, I'm being goofy. He asked me on the episode, is there someone you would do right after they die? And I answered, yes, there's one person that the show, and I actually have to check with Brad. So Brad, this is a production meeting right now. Brad,
well, it's got to be somebody who would find that funny or be okay with it.
Have I told you? No, I haven't told you.
No, I haven't listened apparently that far into the episode.
Who do you think I'm willing to do the day after he finally kicks the bucket? You're gonna kick yourself if after.
Hold on, wait. I think I can get it. I'm summoning the energy to get this. I'm flipping some tarot cards.
Art of Darkness.
Well, Doug Stanhope doesn't care if you.
Yeah, it's Doug Stanhope.
He's got the death list, Deadpool. He doesn't
Doug
care.
Stanhope's
He finds that hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just saw Doug at the Mall of America. He was coming this way. This is why we're podcast husbands. He was coming this way at the Mall of America. I was going that way with my buddy Robert, who's a fan of the show, friend of the show. Mm-hmm. And we were going to dinner, and Doug was there with his entourage. I think Junior Stopka was with him, which is very cool. Junior Stopka is a really funny dude. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, hey, Doug. And he had it had been done up at the mall for Halloween. He had like half his face painted.
Nice.
And then he was like, hey. And he says, hey. And I'm like, happy Halloween. And then over his shoulder, he's like, you're going the wrong way. and then he yelled, or I'm going the wrong way, which is very funny if you know the Mall of America, because it's just a loop. You will end up back. So he was funny there. I love Doug Stanhope. I've seen him in 4 different places.
He's great.
He's great. And yes, when Doug finally kills himself.
Either slowly or suddenly.
Well, he was joking about how great, because I saw him. He was joking about how great COVID was for him. He just was living on he called it his suicide stack, his suicide account. He doesn't have a retirement account. He has. That's what he was calling it. Anyway, he's the one guy, but everybody else we wait, and I think that's ethical and reasonable.
It's a good. I'm 100% in agreement with it.
We are going to try to start timing episodes a little more with like major pop culture stuff, so we can tease another one that we have coming out soon, which Brad's prepping. I'm excited.
Yeah, we've got Frank Herbert's coming up the next primary episode after Disney, and then we will at the beginning of the year we're going to have our first episode that like the closest to their death, which is the great MF Doom.
Doom, get the cash.
Who actually died a year ago this weekend, and then nobody knew for 2 months, which is perfect for that guy. So I'm treating January December 31st, which is when he was announced that he had passed, that as his actual death date.
So that'll be our New Year's episode.
Yeah, sometime in January we'll do that.
Cool, awesome. I'm looking forward to that. Well, we're making good progress here. The next episode after Pamela Coleman Smith, and we're getting into June now of 2021, although these episodes are in theory evergreen. You can go back and listen to these anytime. We actually try to not make it too topical. I think even with Frank Herbert coming on, we're going to have to talk about the new movie. Yeah. It's unavoidable, but that's not what this show's about. The next episode was covering the Waterfront with Tennessee Williams. Michael's like, really, lighting up. What did you make of that one?
No, I loved it. I mean, some of you go into incredible depth, and you could even go further with them. I mean, they're just terrific. Yeah.
I'm not fishing for compliments, but you're right. I mean, sometimes I think like, God, should we do 3 episodes per person? I like the format that we have. Yeah. I think part of the fun of this show is to kind of like give people a taste, and if you really get into somebody, there's so much out there typically for these folks. Not always, but typically. Tennessee was so much fun to do. What a character. And another playwright who had a kind of a terrible fall from grace, and not as bad as but I mean he just
kept producing though. I mean the thing was he didn't give up, and he might admit that he wasn't doing his best plays, but he did not stop, and he went to his. In fact, I think I found his final, like he was writing on the day of his death.
Wow!
And I have this biography here.
Oh, ooh.
Where we've got the last words that he wrote.
I like this.
Oh no, Michael's taking over the show.
Yeah, good. Good.
See if
nice.
One of us.
If I can find it.
Yeah, find it. Yeah.
Well, he called death the sudden subway. So James Laughlin said about him, Tennessee called death the sudden subway, and now he has taken the train. But his final lines for a character in a play that he was working on called Kira. Kira nods with a senseless look. She's petrified. Kira takes a few hesitant steps in one direction, then another, frightened by the sound of her slippers on the floor. She removes them, then crosses to each door and bolts it stealthily. That done, she is again undecided of what to do next. At last, she seats herself rigidly in a chair, stage center, and closes her eyes.
Ooh.
Those are the last words he wrote in his entire life.
Wow.
That was a fun episode to do. We're not going to top that, so we can move right on.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Tennessee, so fun. And it's not so much that he declined, although his alcohol abuse, his drug alcoholism, all the rest was not great. The drug abuse, he's sort of a casualty of that stuff, which is a theme. If you're an artist or an aspiring artist, drugs are not cool and okay. Stay away. Or definitely try to pull up out of a tailspin as soon as you can, because it does not help the work at a certain point. But Tennessee, he fell out of fashion. And that's something about theater, is that it moves so fast. If you have the success to the degree that he had, inevitably, it's almost inevitable they'll turn on you. They almost have to.
That's true.
Well, and coming right on his heels, maybe a little too on the nose, but it seemed logical, was to go right to Marlon Brando. And I think we've already touched on that quite a bit. But Michael, as an American actor, what's your take on Brando?
Well, he's, Everest or whatever. Not that you're going to climb Marlon Brando, but
he would love if you climb him. He probably would be into it.
Right. I wasn't aware of his AC/DC quality. That was it goes both ways.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I feel like I was vaguely aware of it. I didn't understand the rapaciousness of the, like, I had no idea of the just sheer volume of it was unbelievable.
His entire
Well, the fact that you deal with a lot of these people that do have drug addictions and alcohol addictions, but for him, some people are like that. Like, I knew a bona fide psychopath once, and he wouldn't touch alcohol or drugs or anything, but it was all in like how he manipulated people and messed with you and got in your head and destroyed you. I guess for Marlon, that was, partly his genius of getting into a character, but then also seducing people.
Yeah.
I found some amazing, there's actually in this book a lot of stuff on Marlon as well.
I'm sure, there's pictures of those two together.
Name the book that you're reading.
This is John Lar's biography of him that probably came out in 2014 or something. It is extensive. But as an actor, I mean, my God. Watching Streetcar, I think that, I had seen him as an older actor, but then going back to see him at age 23 or 24 and just being like, that is God-given. You are born with that. I don't know.
You just say the word streetcar and it flashes through my mind. And it's a movie like Psycho, which I just rewatched, where I go, I could watch Streetcar tonight.
Yeah.
It's such a rare thing to make people all around the world, millions of people go, I could probably watch that movie. I could go for The Godfather again. What is it? It's that quality that's just something indefinable.
He very nearly turned it down.
Really?
Godfather or Streetcar.
Yeah.
Wow.
He thought he was too young. He thought he would embarrass himself. And he called to say, I don't want to audition for it.
Wow.
And the line was busy.
Wow. Fate.
And then he got his nerve back, and they gave him $20 to take a bus or whatever. They gave him $20 to get out to Provincetown from New York.
Yeah.
And
slept with 3 or 4 people on the way.
He had a girlfriend. He had a girlfriend at the time.
With the bus driver.
And he never showed up. And Tennessee called into town. He said, "Where's Marlon?" Nobody could find him. He and his girlfriend, he pocketed the money and hitchhiked. So he showed up late.
Oh, it took him a while. Yeah. Nice.
And the place was plunged into darkness because somehow they'd blown the fuses and they had overflowed the toilets. So he came in and somehow he got the lights working. He unplugged the toilets and then sat down and read from the script. And Tennessee, after like 10 minutes, Tennessee was like,
this is clearly the guy.
Yeah. Get me this person. We got to call one of the producers and make sure that like she doesn't nix this because this is my man.
Wow.
I have found Stanley.
That charisma.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Did I tell the story on the episode about being down at UT and a bunch of Tennessee's artifacts were there, and among them was the little black book, Marlon's little black book, and he had made the stage manager quite angry, so she kind of didn't give it back to him. It'd be like losing your hardware wallet for your crypto now, but it's like sex crypto.
Right.
Which is crypto too.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah. All right. Well, that's great. I love that story about Brando. Good. Yeah, that was a fun episode. Now we're getting to a real banger. One that I know, Michael, you were excited to talk about. Brad, who's next?
Johnny Cash.
God bless Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have much to add to that. I mean, you guys plumbed the depths there, and I don't know more about him. I'm just, a fanboy like you guys are.
Yeah, this was one, and I've learned so much doing all these episodes, and the ones Kevin's done sitting here, I learned a lot too. That one for me and the Rod Serling one, also I guess the Marlon Brando one, but for some reason that one and the Rod Serling one, I felt like learning about them, I was learning like 20th century American history.
Sure.
Like I felt that there were so many things attached to what they had done that the
sunken lands, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Right. So they had starting in that, like at the literal muck bottom of the country to, being one of the most.
But I love that album. I'm glad that you brought up that he had written that, that song. I forget what it's called, but it's sort of about the end of the world. And it's like
the man comes around.
The men. That whole album was covers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think somewhere in my mind, I had thought that was a cover too. That song is so for the ages.
Yeah,
it's
really
like a folk song. It's like something that's been passed down for centuries.
Yeah, it does have that quality, doesn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. I think that is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I'm a grudging Catholic. That's one of the themes of the show is that we every time somebody turns to the one true church, we're much more favorable to them on the podcast. But when the man comes around, is probably the pinnacle of Protestant art.
I would say that's probably true.
The angels are trimming their wings.
Their wicks. The angels are their wicks. Yeah, they're trimming their wicks. So they're getting their candles ready for Revelation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And somehow I hear the sort of the echo of wings, even though that's not what he's
saying. But I'm sure poetically he knows what he's doing. And
I have a Shakespeare scholar, teacher, expert that talks about like shadow words. There are the words that you hear.
Oh,
they're
interesting.
Kind of inferred.
Yeah, the wick it's such a wonderful word, and it's so also it's evocative of the candle, but it's your wick is being trimmed.
Right.
Your time is coming. You're that burning candle.
Yeah.
And the time, it's so good.
That's good. And then him writing that, pacing around his house, kind of alone now, going blind, it's gone, he's skyrocketed and plummeted and skyrocketed again,
Nobody's had a greater comeback than Johnny Cash.
That was what I realized doing that episode too. That was
it was Rubin. It was Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
Taking him.
You're crazy for this one, Rick.
Right. And,
There's a story of Rick Rubin. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no. Well, you go ahead. I've talked about all this already, so go for it.
But there's this one wonderful story that Rick Rubin, that he called him up, that I guess Johnny just out of the blue called him up and said, "I'd like you to say the Lord's Prayer with me."
Oh yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Yeah,
they were like over the phone, like
right.
reciting or maybe just Johnny did. I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Well, and then Rick Rubin's whole mode of approaching that project was to just like, I'm just going to let you be you, and we're going to see what happens. Kind of. At least that's how it started, and then started adding in some of the production as because it's a 5 or 6 album extended project. But
that material, that stuff is music that I can't put on most times, that late Johnny Cash stuff, because it's too much. It's too much.
The song
I love it. It's just I'm not hanging around the house music. It's too much.
No, that song I See a Darkness, it's originally written by Bonnie Prince Billy. That song has made me probably cry 4 times in my life. Not just once, but like multiple times that song has come on and I've teared up.
I have that. Yeah. It's corny, but I have that with the Beatles. I can't listen to the Let It Be record sometimes. It's just too much. There's too many personal, gets tied up with your family and people you know and have lost and all of it. It's just
music is so evocative in memory anyway. I mean, if a song was sort of omnipresent in your life at a specific moment in your personal biography, then when you listen to it again, it ties that thread and makes you sort of relive that.
My whole goal with Art of Darkness is to bring people to tears with our episodes. That's every time you walk around that park, you're going to remember us.
Right. That's right.
All right. So we're coming up to, I guess, what we're going to call most of year 1. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We still have a few more episodes, and I think Brad and I might do another little one of these at the end. Maybe not as extensive as this, but we may do like a this was 2021 in the rear view on Art of Darkness. Not sure, but this is really fun. What do we have left this year? We're doing Disney. We're doing tonight. Then we've got Frank Herbert. Then I know I'm doing Bill Hicks.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, with a very special guest who is going to have an Amazon a comedy special coming out soon.
Yeah, so, and I've got one more, Frank Herbert, and then James Joyce with Forest of Symbols.
Right,
coming up.
Friend of the show, Forest of Symbols, Joyce. That episode. You guys, I don't really have editorial control over what Brad does. I've tried. He won't listen.
Can't rein me in.
You can't rein him in. And see, if Brad would grow his hair out, I could get my.
That's why I do this, man.
Yeah, my sigil magic just bounces off his pate. On that episode, I hope that episode is as incoherent and garbled and difficult and challenging as Joyce's writing.
Oh yeah, we're talking. We've got talk. He and I are talking. Yeah, and he is the master. Forest of Symbols is the master of the circular ambulatory audio project. If you listen to his he's in my opinion, I admire what he does.
So he's doing a multi-part exploration on frog symbolism, right?
Yeah, and it goes everywhere. It's
perfect.
Brilliant.
It's going to be great.
He's going to be on, and he and I are preparing a Joyce thing, and hopefully I can just keep up with him.
Fun. So we have a few more episodes to go, and then we will do an After Dark episode for the Patreon subscribers with Michael Bakkensen. He's going to give us some dirt on what it was like to work for the Mouse and for Miramax and all the rest. That's going to be a lot of fun.
I think I'll talk about D'Onofrio too.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I really admire D'Onofrio. Okay, good. So let's save that. Save the sizzles. You gotta subscribe to the Patreon. This isn't, just help us pay for like You know how sometimes on the streaming services, the movies don't have, they're not streaming, you have to pay? Yeah. I must have spent $20, for some of these episodes, just drilling in and finding it. Just chuck $1 so that we can watch these movies, so we can give you better content for the show. The next episode we did with fabulous award-winning writer Aaron Gwynne, we did a true American legend. Brad did Faulkner.
Yeah, that was the one I maybe did the most work on, honestly.
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. He's such a figure. That was a guy who I've always aspired to his output more than any other writer. Not to copy him what he actually did, but just the breadth and power and innovation of it, So
I didn't know that he was so eccentric.
Yeah, right. He's a weirdo.
just an oddball.
In a way,
pretending to be an English gentleman.
In the Navy or the Air Force, the British Air Force. Yeah, goes up there and puts on the accent, and then walks with a limp for years after. But it's all an act.
And then, of course, the drinking. Come on, put the bottle down. That one I really enjoyed because I feel like we kind of have developed another format that's going to work for us. We're going to try it again with Blauergeist tonight on the Disney episode. Blauer's a Twitter personality who posts these. He has a podcast of his own. It's the Elroy Boys.
James Elroy.
Yeah. And
but he runs a literary journal as well.
Yeah.
He's a all-around kind of guy.
It's Apocalypse
Confidential.
Apocalypse Confidential. Fantastic. Yeah. I'm still doing my show prep. I gotta remember how to introduce Blauergeist. I love that dude's Twitter account. He's so funny. Every time he wakes up for a nap, he just tweets, just woke up from a nap, and he tweets Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street, looking at everybody.
Doing the bowing.
All right. Yeah. Just woke up from a nap. I don't know why. It tickles me every time. I just think it's so funny.
He's got I'm looking forward to it. He has got the best GIF game in Twitter.
He finds the strangest photos and things too. He finds these weird interiors from the 60s and the 70s that are so suggestive of ways of being that are so alien to. So he's going to be perfect for Disney. Yes. And on the Disney episode, I've particularly tasked him to cover the weird CIA occult MK Ultra crazy side of Disney.
Yeah,
Disney working with CIA operatives to find the land in Disney World and all the rest of it. Disney is essentially an arm of the government. It has been since the war.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Right. Yeah. That's neither here nor there. So we did Faulkner, and then Brad went on a guest podcast. He was on the Scarlet Thread Society.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the story there, Brad? Real quick.
That's a Scarlet Thread is an extension of the Timeline Earth podcast, which is a great podcast. They talk, I don't even really know how to summarize. They talk about everything. Scarlet Thread Society is the sort of occult, paranormal, supernatural arm of that. And Paz, the guy who runs Scarlet Thread Society, had been looking to do an episode on the tarot. And he and I had some exchanges earlier on. I'd sent him a book, and we'd been going back and forth for a while. So he just reached out to me and was like, do you want to come on and talk about tarot? He referred to me as a tarot expert, which made my head get a little bit bigger, but it was cool. It was fun.
Yeah, no, those are the magic spells I'm sending toward you. Right, good. So I can't believe that I actually do believe that you nailed Stanhope. That is so funny. Perfect. Mwah, chef kiss. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, and obviously I hope Doug lives, to a ripe old age. By the time we're on episode 900, Doug can finally do it. He's so funny. They come up with the most clever ways to kill yourself. People will send him send him ideas. We need you do this thing in a roller coaster where your head gets chopped off at the end of the roller coaster, but you glue your hands to your head, and then your head ends up swinging in your hands. They come up with all this crazy stuff. Read it on his podcast, which is so funny. Boy. And Doug is like, this is so good, I can't use this. You have to keep this for yourself, right? So we have 2 more formal episodes to cover, and we're back to Sarah Kane, great English playwright whose work you should be familiar with, whether you're interested in theater or not. Frankly, the sort of theater of horror and body horror, and kind of this like indictment of modern squishy liberal placidness. This idea of it just bringing the most intense stuff that you can to the stage to sort of force people out of their stupor, and also a great individualist. I'm not sure if I think I did get to that on the episode where she talked about how she just is who she is. I am what I am. She even claimed there's no such thing as a female writer, as a woman writer. There are just writers. Yeah. And I admire that look at things. And I actually wrote I was prompted by a buddy of mine who will remain nameless, who may or may not have a samizdat type outlet. And he sort of asked me to write something. And so I did. I wrote a little bit about Sarah Kane. So I'm going to put that on probably my Substack, which I don't really do too much of. But when I do, I'm discovering that it's often related to Art of Darkness, probably not least because we put in the time, right?
Yeah.
Sarah Kane was one of those where it's like, oh, fun, we're going to do another suicide. She killed herself when she was 28. Wow. And you just try to handle it. And with her, it was fun because it was so much about the work. And her work is sort of... that one actually, paradoxically or unexpectedly, I knew the least about her of anybody we've done so far starting out. And I probably was the most emotionally affected by her life story, I would say. I remember driving around the next morning being like, 28. Like she was just getting started. It just broke my heart.
Shortly thereafter, I woke up at 4:48 a.m.
That's
in
bizarre.
kind of a bit of a terror, and I looked at the clock and I was like, "Well, okay, wow,
that is bizarre." Wow.
The subconscious is really powerful.
Yeah, it
Somehow
is.
I just had clocked that.
Yeah. Boom. Wow. So Michael, I'm just saying, it sounds like you listened to that episode, and then we kind of talked about Sarah Kane. I mean, I don't know if we've got more to say about that or.
No, I think, go on.
Yeah. The only thing I wanted to mention, because you mentioned this figure in Kafka, but Antonin Artaud, I think of with Sarah Kane.
Absolutely. Theater
of Cruelty. Like just that, she's just letting her, whatever, id part of her brain go and seeing this phantasmagoria of horror and not being afraid to just put it on there in paper and then put it up on the stage.
Yeah. Without a doubt. And Artaud is going to be an episode we'll probably end up doing next year. I'm quite a big devotee of Artaud. And love that quote from him. Actors are athletes of the heart. I love that. We'll do Artaud. The thing about Sarah Kane, when you say that, of course, is that she does that thing you described, but many, many young writers do, right? But she had a level of craft where she kind of split the sky with her ability. If you read the plays and it makes sense that in a funny way, like she was such a person of the theater, formally trained in it, but wanted to destroy it.
Right.
Very 90s, very Gen X. In hindsight, I think that there are few people more Gen X than Sarah Kane.
Yeah, I think that's apt.
That's not a bad thing.
Sure. Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah. No, I love Generation X, man. I'm almost Generation X, and I want to be formally recognized as Generation X.
I am Gen X, and I'll grant you.
That's awesome.
Honorary Gen X.
Whoa, that's awesome. It's bouncing off his skull and coming over to me, so I'm officially. I want to be double millennial. Oh, good. Oh, excellent. How do you dub somebody Gen X? You just kind of like snub them a little bit and like cigarette.
You blow smoke in their face.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't know, man. I saw 9 Inch Nails on the Pretty Hate Machine tour, man.
Yeah.
All right. You know what I mean? Yeah, Rick Rubin is cool, but have you heard of some obscure German producer that nobody's ever heard of? No, that means a lot. That means a lot. And as Oregon
I lived
Trail,
in Seattle in '94.
Oh yeah. So
wow. This really counts.
You can't really have. You literally can't have more Gen X cred than that, unless you're like actually Kurt Cobain.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I moved there the spring after he killed himself. I moved there for the summer and made money going door to door canvassing for a political action committee.
Wow. Was it?
It was rough.
What
Actually,
was
you know what? I
mood
met
like
Jimi
there?
Hendrix's brother.
Oh.
Whoa. In Seattle.
I was in this neighborhood and I went up to this woman's house and she was super cool. She was like a midnight DJ for one of the Seattle radio stations. She was like, "Oh yeah, man, you want? Sure, I'll sign your thing. I'll give you few bucks. You know who my neighbor is?" I was like, yeah. She's like, yeah, he signed your thing too. Do you know who that was? I was like, no. And she goes, Leon Hendrix, man. I was like, what? Oh, and my mind goes back and it was like this girl who looked like she hadn't slept in days, who's maybe 15, came to the door and answered it, and she was like, "I'll go get my dad." He came down and like signed the thing. It was Jimi Hendrix's brother.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool.
Cool, fun story. Yeah, the Hendrix Seattle connection.
Yeah,
for sure. Cool. Well, good. That's awesome. And as Oregon Trail millennials, early millennials, I'm passing you a pixelated shotgun to shoot squirrels with.
Oh, I played that.
Okay. All right. See, this is the generation that we represent. Yeah. So we're the Oregon Trail generation. Now. Right. That's where, what would be fun?
I'm on the cusp, because I'm on the cusp of millennial, but I'm in Gen X.
Right on the edge. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Mm-hmm. This is really, really important, obviously. I wonder if there is a person associated with the Oregon Trail we could do. I would love to know.
My family went on the Oregon Trail.
Oh, like literally the action.
I'm the descendant of pioneers.
You're the one who didn't get the dysentery.
No. You know how they must be so disappointed that you went back east.
I often think about that. And when I was living in Boston recently, my daughter was like a year old, somebody sent me like the history of my family, and there were baptismal records from a church that was like a half a mile from where I was living in Boston.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I just came all the way back.
Right.
This is another thing that
that's so wild.
I talked about Fitzgerald on the Force of Symbols podcast, and we'll do Fitz at some point too, Brad. That'll be very interesting, I'm sure. But that's what The Great Gatsby is about, going back east.
Yeah.
And that typically often gets lost. That's so interesting. Michael, you're a great guest. We love having you on. I hope this was enriching and fun. And we're going to do another 30 minutes on the After Dark episode. We had one more episode that we did up until this point here in 2021. And who was that, Brad?
That was Zora Neale Hurston.
Right.
How could I forget? I went deep into Zora Neale Hurston land.
The voodoo doctor. She's the first voodoo that we did. As far as we know, I think.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's anybody else. Yeah, voodoo doctor and anthropologist extraordinaire and Harlem Renaissance queen of the Harlem Renaissance.
Socialite. She was an Araviste socialite. She took over Harlem and got everybody to kind of, give her what she wanted.
Brilliant, amazing life story. Amazing person. She was, we talk about the stubborn and the willpower and that sort of thing that we've come across in this. She was that as much as any of these people. Just firebrand, knew exactly who she was, wasn't going to take no for an answer.
And left the great novel that is required reading.
Yeah.
Well, I have learned nothing from doing this for a year. But unlike Seinfeld, the show is about something, and it is about the dark side of creativity, and it's Art of Darkness, artofdarkpod.com. Michael Bakkensen, where can people find you?
You can go to www.michaelbakkensen.com, or you can go to just see the overview. I put stuff on Instagram. I put stuff on Twitter.
Tell us the name of the new album.
Yeah, please. It's called Circle Kiss.
Circle Kiss.
You can go to YouTube and find the single Pamela off of that. So if you put in Michael Bakkensen and Pamela, Tamala, there's a little video there. and you can stream it anywhere, Spotify. But I encourage you to buy the album.
Of course.
It was conceived of as an album. I think it holds together as
we'll get that information in the notes for this episode. So it's right there.
Yeah, it'll be right in the show notes. We just updated the website. Yep. Please subscribe to the Patreon. Patreon.com/artofdarkpod. And of course, Michael, very talented actor. He will be in this reading coming up of my play, moderationplay.com, coming out in December. That's a play about social media content moderators losing their minds at work. It's a dark comedy. Yeah. Is there anything else? Anything else we're dying to say before we reconvene?
Can I insert one thing there? Yeah. If you go to the website, michaelbakkensen.com, I put in a little button where you can get the physical copy of the CD, which was designed by a great graphic designer named Nina Zivkovic. I'm very proud of the way this CD looks. It's a 6-panel CD with all the lyrics and stuff. It's beautiful.
Cool. Awesome. Very cool.
So you can actually buy it, and I'll ship it to you with a personal note.
Hey. Wow. All right, we'll put the link to his website in the show notes, and we're gonna take a quick 5. We're gonna come back, and we're gonna talk about even more dark, real world stuff from Michael's torturous time working for the Mouse and the Little St. James Players.
Oh God!
I'm Kevin Kautzman,
and I'm Brad Kelly. We'll talk to you later.
Later. Thanks, Michael.
You bet.